Good morning. Running a little late today. Don't know why. Just happened. Anyhow, not a great week for new movies to come to Hong Kong. We're sort of in between. There's a few awards nominated movies coming in the next few weeks. The Favorite. What else is coming? I can't even remember. But next week's going to be a bit better because we have Suspiria, which I've already seen. Actually, I have to watch the old one. I better make a note. I want to watch the old one so that I can compare the two. Interesting film, but I'll talk about that. Yeah, next week it's coming. So this week I got a couple new films to talk about. One is a French film called Sink or Swim. There's been a few films of that name, so this is the two, and this has no relation to all those other films that have the title Sink or Swim. French name is Le Grand Bain. The big bath, it means in French, and it stars Matthew Amalric, who you would know his face. You might not know his name, but you would know his face. He was most recently in At Eternity's Gate. He had a very small part in that film, but most notably for Western or non-French-speaking audiences, he was the bad guy in Quantum of Solace, one of the James Bond films from a few years back. So you would definitely recognize his face if you don't know his name. And it's directed by a fellow by the name of Gilles Lelouch. And Gilles Lelouch is probably more famous for his acting than his directing. He's been in quite a few films, and he's going to be in a new film coming up. It's going to be released in France next month called Jusqu'ici tout va bien, which literally means so far so good, but I understand the English title is going to be New Biz in the Hood. I have no idea what it's about, but I don't know why they didn't go with so far so good. Maybe it's been used too many times. So he's the director of this film, Sink or Swim, and it's an underdog story about a group of middle-aged men, middle-aged losers, I got to add, who decide to form a men's synchronized swimming team and compete on the international stage. So the story is that Bertrand, who's Matthew Amalric's character, he's in a funk. He's clinically depressed. He's been on medication for the past 2 years, and he spends his days at home pretty much waiting for the day to end so that the next day can start again. But fortunately, his kids seem to be used to this. They don't seem to be too affected. But his wife, Claire, has to deal with her snooty sister and brother-in-law, who are they run a successful furniture store, and they're not happy with their brother-in-law. So one day Bertrand decides to go for a swim at the local pool, and there he spots a bunch of men about his age splashing about in their attempt to become synchronized swimmers. And the young coach Delphine, played by Virginie Efira, if you know your French films, she was in the film In Bed with Victoria. I think she got a lot of praise for that film. I've never seen it, but I heard it was a good film. This is what happens when you do these things so early in the morning. You've got to drink. Now, Delphine is supportive of these guys' efforts, but she knows they'll never be any good. You know? And she was once a synchronized swimmer herself, but her glory days have also passed, and she's, as we learned, she's as broken as they are. So Bertrand asks Delphine if he can join, and she says yes, and they do they start working together, and they end up doing a bit of a performance in front of a group of people to polite applause and mostly laughter. And they decide they want to enter a world championship event that will take place in Norway for men's synchronized swimming under Team France. I don't know how that works, because you can't just say, I'm going to be from Team France, but anyhow. And so this is what they decide to do. And the road to get there is grueling with plenty of potholes, and I'm being metaphoric here, because they have Delphine has issues and she's out of the picture, and they have a new take no prisoners approach coach named Amanda, and their friends and family think they're crazy on top of that. But these men are determined to succeed and regain their lost pride. Now, if this plot sounds familiar to you, aside from sounding like an aquatic version of the Full Monty, which it is. Not a lot of originality here. You may have seen a British version of this story quite recently called Swimming with Men. In fact, Swimming with Men was just here a few months ago. So both this film, Sink or Swim, and the British film Swimming with Men are based on the true story. This is I can't believe it. It's a true story of a Swedish all-male synchronized swim team whose rise to fame is captured in the 2010 documentary, Men Who Swim. So this is based on a true story, I think very loosely based, because Sink or Swim takes a few liberties with the true story. It moves the locale to France. It gives Bertrand depression and more. But the essence is still there because it's about groups of men who are fish out of water to some extent. Now, as many French comedies go these days, the characters are unrealistically over the top as the writers attempt to go for the big laughs. I'm not a big fan of French comedy because I do find it's just over the top humor. But unfortunately here, much of this humor really, it fails to hit the bullseye. A couple times I went, you're going to laugh a few times, but it's not, this is not deep. This is not great cinema, And, the funny part is really watching these pudgy guys try to be graceful and athletic. Now, to its detriment, the writers employ some homophobic tropes, and you're going to make jokes about gay people or people you might think are gay or effeminate. Those jokes happened 25 years ago. We laughed. We shouldn't have. They're not funny in 2019. It's really. I was watching this, I'm going, when was this written? Because it was really, for 2019, this was really bad humor. So I was disappointed with that. Unless you like watching them. People who make gay jokes, I don't know. But I want to say, I think for the writer's part, I think what they did was correct in terms of they showed that the men's success was due to their own hard work and not to anyone else's failure, which is very typical of films these days. For somebody to win, somebody has to lose. And here, nobody loses. So I thought that was good. So, you're not going to come away with any great revelations about aging with this film. You're not going to want to take up men's, synchronized swimming. Maybe you will. I don't know. I certainly am not, because I know it's hard work. But, this film is harmlessly entertaining for 2 hours. It features a great soundtrack from the 80s that, not surprisingly, includes Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical. Of course, that film's got to be in the film. There's some Tears for Fears. There's some good music in this film. So, you know what? If you want a couple hours of mindless, light humor, and, you're not going to have to think about it, except you're going to have to read subtitles, so I guess you'll have to think about it unless you speak French. This is the film for you, Sink or Swim. Not a great, it's not a great film, but it's an okay film. So that's the first film. The second one that opens today is, and I just lost it. I just lost my notes. Where'd they go? There they are. Is Second Act, which is J-Lo's latest film. Jennifer Lopez is back on the big screen. I can't believe she's only 39. She's going to be 40 this year. I mean, she looks great. But she seems to have been around forever. She was really young in her big days. Not to say that today isn't her big days, but these days aren't her big days. But when you think about when she really hit the scene, the music scene, she was like 22, 23. I didn't realize that she was really young. So anyhow, hold on. All right. Now, so this is the story. Second act is the story of Maya Vargas, played by Jennifer Lopez, and she starts out as an assistant manager at a big box store in Queens, New York, because she's Jenny from the block, she's got the big hair and the hoop earrings, and She's assistant manager, and she's very good at what she does. She's implemented some great ideas, and she knows her stuff. But because she only has her GED, and if you're not North American, what is a GED anyways? I should know this. I think it's like the high school equivalency. Somebody who didn't finish high school but then writes this exam and then they get equivalency. I think that's what GED is. So because she only has her GED, her employees pass her over for promotion in favor of a corporate dweeb who has an MBA. Hey, I have an MBA. What's wrong with that? So on her 40th birthday, or I think it's her 40th birthday, they don't really say, but I think it's supposed to be her 40th birthday, she makes a wish that she lived in a world where street smarts equal book smarts. And with that, her BFF, Joan, played by her real-life BFF, Leah Remini, who people would know from TV's King of Queens, and Kevin Can Wait, and she's been in the news of late because she was a Scientologist, and she's left the Church of Scientology, and she's an outspoken critic of the organization, like vehemently outspoken. I'm surprised they don't have a contract out on her life. I guess they don't do that sort of thing. But, or maybe they do. I don't know. But she's very critical of the Church of Scientology now. Anyhow, so with that, her BFF Joan gets her computer-savvy son Dilly, played by Dalton Herod, who was just in The Miseducation of Cameron Post. He asks her to tweak Maya's resume and send it out to some companies that could use her expertise. But Dilly, however, he goes a bit overboard with this task, and Maya becomes a Wharton MBA who has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and she knows the Obamas. And she immediately gets offered, I'm not telling you to, this is all in the trailer, so I don't reveal anything that isn't in the trailer, all right? So she gets offered a high-profile position, without reference background checks, I might add, with a company that's sort of like Procter and Gamble. It's got an ampersand in the name, and it comes with all the perks. She's got a beautiful apartment, beautiful wardrobe allowance, the whole thing. And her first assignment is to develop a new line of profitable and popular, fully organic skincare products. But her bigger challenge than that is to do that in competition with the president's daughter, played by Zoe, played by Vanessa Hudgens, who was in the High School Musical series with Zac Efron, and make sure nobody finds out that she's a fraud or that her resume is a fraud, and also keep her relationship with her boyfriend of 5 years, amateur baseball coach Trey, played by Milo Ventimiglia, alive, because he's very much Queens, and now she's Manhattan. She's, fast-moving Manhattan. So, of course, that puts a strain on their relationship. Now, if you think you've seen this Jennifer Lopez movie before, you have. This is Working Girl meets Made in Manhattan. This is exactly like Made in Manhattan, which Jennifer Lopez starred in, about 15, 17 years ago, but she's now a working girl instead of a maid. Now, interestingly, in Made in Manhattan, Jennifer Lopez's initials were also MV. I can't remember what they were offhand, but I remember they were MV. So there are no surprises to be had here, well, except for one, and it's a huge one. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's huge, but it was also a huge mistake because it really set the tone for the second half of the movie. This surprise comes sort of halfway in the movie, and you go, whoa! You didn't really need to go there, and the writers went there. Justin Zackham and Elaine Goldsmith-Thomas, they went there, and it really put a wet blanket over everything that followed afterwards. And, I think the idea why they did it is that in 2019, it's not enough to be, a woman who has to balance career and love. She's got to have this third issue to deal with. And it's a huge issue, and it's not dealt with well. Let's say it's not dealt with realistically. Let's put it that way. That was a mistake in my mind. I think another thing is, and for anyone who's ever worked in marketing, and I have, these writers, they don't have a clue how to bring a product to market. It was such a joke. I mean, why spend money on a focus group when you can stand outside a cosmetic shop and survey people who walk by? Or why do market segmentation analysis when you can sell to everyone the same way? Because according to this, everybody is homogeneous. They buy the same way. There's only one outlet. I mean, it just was ridiculous. And why bother with spreadsheets when you can pull numbers out of your ass? So okay, I'm being pedantic, but I think the director, Peter Siegel, who made 50 First Dates and Anger Management, and what was the one? He did an Eddie Murphy film that was horrible. I can't remember which one it was offhand. Okay, so I'm sort of giving you an idea of the kind of films that he makes, although this one's more highbrow than those ones. He seems more concerned with how she looks, how Jennifer Lopez looks with her flat ironed hair, her nude lipstick, and her curve hugging pencil dresses than with any sense of realism. There's no realism here at all. And especially with this humongous surprise that gets launched in the middle of the movie. So with the exception of Leia Remini's brilliant sassiness, I think she was the best part of the movie. But this is a character that she plays all the time. Leia Remini, she's very good at it. This sort of smart mouthed and always like this with the answer. She's got wonderful comic timing, I got to say. But this is a character we've seen many times from Leia Remini. With the exception of her, most of the humor comes from these broad Queens and Manhattan stereotypes and these foul-mouthed children. Like Leia Remini, the kid who plays Leia Remini's little kid's got a mouth on him. My mother would have taken me into the bathroom and washed my mouth out with soap more than once. But this seems to be a thing now with Hollywood films. These foul-mouthed children and foul-mouthed seniors. Like last week, or was it last week, I did Instant Family, the same thing. Okay, these were foster kids. You sort of expect they're going to have foul mouths. But from what I understand with Instant Family, Instant Family is being billed as a family movie, and parents are bringing their kids to see this movie, and these kids are hearing four-letter words, and they're very upset about this. This film also, the little kid does use a lot of language like that, and you think, come on, Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I don't know. And the other thing that was quite funny was a bit of schadenfreude over a flock of doves. But I'm not going to say anything more about that. Again, it's not a horrible film. It's like, I would say, just like Maya's new skincare product, it's very safe. If you like safe and you like Jennifer Lopez, go for it. You'll be just fine. Again, not a memorable film, but it's okay. So again, this is not a great week for new films in Hong Kong. We're sort of in the dip. January is a slow month, notably, I think in Hollywood as well, for new films. I heard last night I was reading about a new film with Matthew McConaughey that's just being trashed by critics. I don't even know, what's it called? Serenity. It hasn't been booked to come here yet. I don't know what's happening. So, January, you don't expect a lot from films in January. So in that respect, I guess these two are better than what usually plays in January, but they're not great. So, you know what? You're looking for safe films to go see this weekend. Either one, enjoy, have fun. Hopefully next week we'll get some better films. Certainly Suspiria will challenge the viewers, and enjoy. So that's it. Have a good week. I'm out of here. Bye.